We are going to be joined now by the spokesperson for Numsa, Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, just to give us clarity on what is happening. Phakamile, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners, viewers. Thank you for having me on the show, Sakina.
Phakamile, let's just start with informing us where things stand right now regarding the Numsa elective conference. Are things going ahead? What is happening today?
Yes, the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa will from today continue or begin its national congress. The reason for that is because, yes, even though we were interdicted on Saturday, we spent the last couple of days studying the judgment. Yesterday, we called for a special central committee where we analyzed the decision of the judge and also looked at what some of the compliance issues that he had raised. In that central committee meeting, we then resolved to deal with some of those compliance issues. But at the same time, there are areas of this judgment that are very problematic for us. So whilst we are complying in where we can, we actually have also lodged a leave to appeal application as of yesterday evening.
So with that still pending then, where does that leave us now? With regard to the compliance that you speak about, does that mean that all the suspended members will now be allowed to, one, participate, and two, stand for election during this conference?
Yes, the primary demand that was made by the applicants when they went to court was that the suspension was denying them their democratic right to participate. So even though as a trade union, we do feel that these individuals have committed misconduct, and we reserve the right as a trade union to continue with whatever disciplinary action we may deem necessary. But the court has ordered that the suspensions be lifted. So we've lifted the suspensions and they are participating, and they will be able to stand in the elections.
So just explain that to us further, because is that not a contradiction? If you are then lifting the suspensions, if you're lifting the suspensions because you are in an effort, you are trying to actually comply with the court interdict, why then would you then go back and act on these members again?
We have said that we do not agree with the court's decision in relation to that, which is why we have filed an application for leave to appeal. And as you know, Sakina, we are within our legal rights to do so. The application for leave to appeal does suspend any interdict. However, the court did say that we should allow these members to participate, so we will allow them to participate. And we don't think that that is a contradiction. As far as the union is concerned, acts of misconduct were committed, but we don't agree with the court. But we are trying to comply with the order.
So let me understand this. You will allow them to participate. You will allow them to contest leadership positions. They can be elected into leadership positions, and you reserve the right to, if you will, suspend them immediately afterwards again, if you so desire. Is that what you're saying?
As you say, yes. If we so desire, yes.
So then what is the point of this whole exercise then? Because it seems as though you are right back where you started.
No, we're not. As I said, we are not. We are fulfilling the terms of the court order. The court order said that they should be allowed to participate, and they are going to participate. But just because the court said that they can participate, it doesn't erode the fact that misconduct occurred. And the union, as far as the union is concerned, there were acts of misconduct. But we must adhere to the court order, and so we are doing so.
But does the court order say that they should just be allowed to participate, or does it say that it sets aside the suspensions? And of what significance is that?
The court felt that the process of suspending was not correct. The court did not go into the matters of whether the reasons were valid or not for suspension. So in terms, we are following the process. There were several issues that the court raised. The primary issue was the issue of the process that was followed in terms of the suspension. There's also problems in terms of how the judge views the powers of the trade union, because again, this is another area of disagreement that we have with the judgment, where the court found that the Central Committee does not have the power to suspend. We argue that in terms of the Constitution, it does. So it's a balance of these two issues. Remember, we are appealing. And the issues that I'm raising form part of the appeal application that we lodged last night. It does not, we are trying as far as it's humanly possible to comply with the court order. But I think the court order also has to be balanced against the rights of 350,000 members of Numsa who have paid 39 million rand of their subs to ensure that this Congress goes ahead. There are many, many factors that have forced us into arriving at this situation, primarily being the exorbitant cost, which we cannot raise 39 million to do this again. That's the first thing. But secondly, and more pressing, is that we have not had a national Congress. We've had to delay the Congress as a result of COVID. If we do not proceed with a national Congress, then we ourselves as an organization are in danger of being deregistered with the Department of Employment and Labor. So it is unfortunate that the court came to the decision that it came to. There, as we said, there are areas of disagreement. And because there are areas of disagreement, we are exercising our right also to appeal.
Phakamile, I have to ask you, are you able to just hang tight for us for a few minutes? We are into news time, and unfortunately, we came to this interview slightly late. So just a few more questions that I have for you, if you do have the time. If you could just hold on for us for a few minutes.
All right, very quickly, I've got accreditations, but yes, okay.
Thank you so much. All right, Leanne Manis, just very quickly, brief update there on the news, and then we'll conclude this conversation with Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, who's the spokesperson of Numsa. Just getting back to that conversation, it is, of course, with Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, where the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa are pushing to convene the organization's court-halted National Congress. So just getting back to that conversation, thanks so much for your patience, Phakamile. With regard to the continuation of the Congress now, how will those members who are not yet in Cape Town, will they participate in this Congress?
They are in Cape Town, Sakina. They were part of the Special Central Committee where we resolved and agreed that this was the path that we are going to take. The majority of the Special Central Committee resolved that this is the manner in which we have to resolve this issue, so they will be able to participate.
So does this include previously suspended members?
Yes.
So everybody is in Cape Town?
Everybody is in Cape Town. I think it's very important that I stress how we got here. You must remember that the judgment was handed down on Saturday evening. By Saturday evening, the majority of Numsa members had already arrived in Cape Town in preparation for the Congress. Many of them had to be flown in early because, as you know, there's serious shortages with flights. So when the judgment was handed down, it created a crisis for us in the sense that we were unable to. Because most of the people were already here, we had to take all of our decisions while we were here. At the same time, we also had to balance the fact that there are seriously pressing concerns regarding, as I said, the cost of this Congress, and again, the fact that we have to comply with the Department of Employment and Labor with respect to our constitutional obligations. And one of the things the judge did say in the judgment was that the Numsa Congress can go ahead as long as the trade union complies with certain aspects of its constitution. So that Central Committee meeting dealt with some of those aspects. There was an issue, for example, around the credentials committee. The SCC resolved on that and followed the process in line with what the court had said. There was an issue around the suspension of these members and whether or not they can participate. And again, the SCC adhered order in respect of allowing them to participate. But there are other aspects of the judgment that have created a real problem, especially the interpretation of the powers of the NEC, the powers of the CC, and also the decision with regards to whether the organization has the right to place a region under administration. All of those things are problematic. And like anyone else in this country, if you are not satisfied with the decision, you have the right to appeal. It's not unusual for that to happen. So we are exercising our rights. We are adhering in terms of in terms of what we can do, but in the areas where we have difficulties, we are appealing. So we're following both these processes at the same time.
So speaking of regions that you've placed under administration, etc., the Mpumalanga region, are they there?
Yes, they're here. And in fact, one of the problems with this, with the decision that was taken by the court is the fact that the court did not take into cognizance the fact that, like the court, for example, ordered that we did not have the power to put Mpumalanga under administration. The court also claimed that Mpumalanga was one of the biggest regions. Neither of those things are true. Mpumalanga is not one of the biggest regions. It's actually one of the smallest regions. And the Central Committee has for many, many years, placed regions under administration when they're dysfunctional. And this particular region was dysfunctional. In order for you to be able to qualify to attend Congress, your region has to have a regional Congress. They have to elect a new leadership. Unfortunately, Mpumalanga did not hold its regional, it collapsed its regional Congresses twice. In fact, in that collapsing, they themselves asked to be placed under administration. And then the judge interdicted us on the basis that we placed them under administration. So really for us, we believe we've got very good reasons to appeal this decision because from an administrative perspective, it creates problems. Mpumalanga as a region right now is dysfunctional. It has no leadership, which means that members in Mpumalanga will not be served. So if we were to submit to this interdict and accept that the court was right, that the union has no right to place it under administration, it basically means that Numsa members in Mpumalanga will not be serviced.
With regard to the cost, you mentioned it in passing, 39 million rand thereabouts. Isn't that exorbitant in terms of what you're spending, given the sort of issues that your membership may be facing with loss of income and, just basically the tough economic times and conditions that your members have to endure?
A Congress comes every 4 years. It is a constitutional requirement that a trade union must renew its leadership every 4 years. Now, in terms of the cost, the decision to hold a Congress was taken, we followed the normal processes in regards to hosting the Congress, where we'll host the Congress, and unfortunately it is expensive. You're talking about 700 delegates that have to be flown in fact more than 700 if you include guests, who have to be flown in from different parts of the world to come to Western Cape, to be hosted for 5 days in a hotel, fed, etc. It's not cheap. We fundraised for this, as we always do for all Congresses, and the bill is 39 million.
Wow. And does that not, doesn't it give you cause for pause, Phakamile? 39 million rand. Could this have been done at a cheaper rate? And I know you say these things cost money, but surely, as Terry Bell also pointed out earlier, did it have to be at the Cape Town Convention Centre? Did you have to fly members in and house them where they are currently being housed? Couldn't that bill have been slashed somewhat?
Sakina, Numsa is a national union. We have regions all over the country. There was a central committee decision taken where members voted that they would have their Congress in Cape Town. In 2016, it was in Cape Town. There have been other Congresses that have taken place in other regions, in other parts of the country. Whether we'd had it at Birchwood in Johannesburg, or if we'd had it in Mpumalanga, or if we'd had it in Eastern Cape, the bill would still be the same. We would still have to fly more than 1,000 delegates into the venue, house them, feed them, I mean, I think people should just be realistic. Numsa is the biggest union in the country. To hold a congress of this size is not cheap. So I honestly don't actually understand what Terry Bell expects us to do. All of what we're doing is based on constitutional decisions that were taken, in some cases, more than a year ago.
Owen Simon says, where was the 39 million rand during COVID when your members were suffering from hunger and poverty? And, many people just balking at that eye-watering amount of money that is spent. But I have to wrap this, Phakamile.
The majority of that money is fundraised. And as I said, we have to hold a Congress. And if people are going to choose a venue, whether it's anywhere in the world, transportation would need to be paid for. Plane ticket would have to be bought. Accommodation would have to be paid for. Food. I mean, I think we should really just also think about that as well. You can't hire a school hall and say you're going to hold a Numsa Congress. It doesn't work like that.
Why not? And that is the point, isn't it, Phakamile? Did you even consider venues that would come in at a lower cost at this point?
Absolutely. And we also had to consider the COVID-19 situation, because we made this decision during the height of COVID. In fact, our Congress was supposed to take place in 2020. We were blocked from hosting it because of COVID, because of the COVID requirements. And then we ended up having to choose a venue which had to be COVID friendly in order for us to proceed, because we needed to ensure that we adhere to social distancing, etc. But all of those things those decisions were taken before the presidency made the announcement to relax the COVID-19 controls. So I think you have to try and consider all of those factors that forced us into adopting this particular method of hosting it. If it was as simple as going into a school hall, we could have done that. But it wasn't, because as you know, there were very stringent regulations that we were forced to consider. And by the time the decisions were made, you couldn't reverse that. And as I said, this money has been fundraised. A Congress happens once every 4 years. And in terms of the Constitution, it must happen so that as a trade union, we can continue to be registered and to be compliant with the Department of Employment and Labour.
Well, Phakamile, we're out of time. We're going to have to leave it there. But of course, no doubt, we'll take a look at what unfolds today at your Congress. That was Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, a spokesperson of Numsa. And that Congress, as you heard there, will get underway today. All the members, even the suspended ones, will be in attendance in Cape Town at the Convention Centre. And we'll be keeping a beady eye on those developments.